of 68 After Dark on this Sunday night, December the 4th, 4 weeks into the college basketball season. Jeffrey Goodman is in proper attire to be with John Henson on After Dark. And that's exactly where we're going to begin. Jeff, what went into this shirt choice tonight for Mr. Henson and me?
Well, I would like to say that this is what I would have worn regardless. I'm with John Henson, former Carolina great, but that is not the case. I'm wearing this because the Tar Heels have lost 4 straight, and I don't know if it's time to bury North Carolina. I know last year if we had done that, which a lot of us did, they came up from the grave and actually buried Coach K twice to end, his career at Cameron and then to end it again in earnest. But John, I don't know what we do now. Like this is getting
with my Tar Heel bobble, right? We're over here with the Tar Heel bobblehead, and listen, we can rise again. I know lightning does not strike twice, but you know what?
Not in the same spot, it doesn't.
Same spot. So we got to figure it out. Obviously, the Tar Heels are struggling, lost 4 in a row after being preseason #1, banged up. Didn't realize how little depth we actually had. When Baycoat goes out, it's kind of like, whoa, right? We didn't have the size. We didn't have, it was a rough day for us at the office.
And that's where we begin tonight. Virginia Tech beats North Carolina. Now, it does bear noting, Mike Young's team is 8-1 on the year. The Hokies look like a good team. They look like a tournament caliber team. Win 8 of their first 9 games. Justin Mutz goes off for 27 points. Here is the deal, though, and I'm curious to get both of your reactions to this. North Carolina against Indiana. Little to no resistance. North Carolina against Virginia Tech, albeit on the road as well. No resistance. No sort of firmness. No sort of defense. No sort of, we were preseason #1, and now we're going to show it.
I'm going to tackle this first. So Virginia Tech beat us twice last year, and they beat us in the ACC tournament. So I don't care if Carolina was undefeated. This was going to be a tough game. Blacksburg was one of the tough. I'll never forget my games there. It's one of the toughest environments to play in.
Why, John? So why is this so tough?
It's the way the crowd is. I don't know if the game was crazy. The crowd was into it from the jump. It's almost like they're on top of you. It's if that crowd gets going, if you don't shut them down fast, it's going to get tough. So I think Carolina would have had a rough day at the office no matter what. They happen to be lost 3 in a row. So now we're, sitting here lost, 4 down.
I'm just worried again, because I think they can maybe flip the switch here. And that worries me because I think they caught lightning in a bottle last year for a month. And you saw 4 months of kind of mediocrity or ups and downs, really peaks and valleys. They were getting blown out last year a lot. They haven't been blown out this year. That's a good sign. I just wonder if, again, they caught lightning in a bottle. They were so good for 3 or 4 weeks last year, and now they've come back down, not completely to what they were, but certainly, again, there's no shame in losing in Blacksburg against a really good Virginia Tech team without Armando Bacot. There's no shame in that one. If it were unto itself, but it is not. It is coming on the heels of a awful performance in Portland, and then kind of a lackluster performance in Bloomington, Indiana, against an Indiana team that just lost at Rutgers. So I don't know. I kind of worry about them. And for me, it starts with their energy. That's what I need to see. I need to see them when they were really good last year. What were they doing? They looked like they had fun together. They were laughing, joking, jumping around like little kids. We haven't seen that Carolina again this year.
And Jeff, to that point, they still have some non-conference opportunities with Ohio State, with Michigan, but how much does where the ACC sit impact them overall? And let's talk about it here. We're 4 weeks into the season, but let's face it, it's December, and once you get into all conference play, you're into conference play. North Carolina NCAA tournament, thoughts?
I will say this.
Don't you do it, Jeff.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. If the season ended today, which it does not, North Carolina should not be in the NCAA tournament. Period. Like, who have they beaten? They've beaten Charleston. They've beaten James Madison. They won at Portland. They have lost to anybody that has a chance to be a tournament team. They would not be deserving today. As kind of last March 4th, you could have made a case that they were first four team on March 4th. Right now, there's no way in hell they deserve to be an NCAA tournament team today.
You're right. Preseason number one is going to also work against them as well, right? We thought they were going to be a good team. So now it's flipped, right? Last year, we're like, oh my God, they're playing so well. Now it's kind of like, even if they do go beat a Michigan team, Ohio State, and they go into Cameron and they run through this ACC schedule and play well, that's what they're supposed to do. So this, it's crunch time. We used to have this thing called a gut check. This is a gut check moment for this team. I'm sure Hubert has carried on that tradition of the gut check moment. And, not going to get into the Carolina secrets, but, it's time for a gut check. And usually when there is a gut check, we play a lot better. I hope Bayco gets better as well. And those guys off the bench, you guys are Carolina recruits. We don't
play them, though. You got to play them, John. Like, they didn't play. Hubert told me in the preseason, the one thing he said was, I think it might have cost us last year because our guys were tired. They were banged up. I'm going to start playing the bench. Well, he really didn't until tonight. And to me, Seth Trimble's talented. He could play. Now, Jalen Washington, their other big recruit, has been hurt. He hasn't played yet this year. But to me, they got enough, that they could, Tyler Nickel played today. He had 8 points in 25 minutes. To me, they should have been playing all along. And if they had, they might have been a little bit more prepared for a game like this in Blacksburg.
I'm sorry. We're supposed to react live on this show. It's Field of 68 After Dark. We will get back to North Carolina in just a moment, but we have got to react instantly to the Northwestern Wildcats. They are about to beat. It's about to be official. They're about to beat the Michigan State Spartans in East Lansing.
Yeah.
What the hell has happened to the Spartans?
Well, they're decimated with injuries that they can't handle. They were already thin, and now you take away two of their best players, right? You take away two of their most talented guys, and they're not the same team. And, oh, by the way, Mady Sissoko, who we thought was Hakeem Olajuwon the first couple games, has returned to being Mady Sissoko. And he's fine. He's a good, solid player. But, this is not a great Michigan State team to begin with. And you take away Jaden Akins, who again, has played a little bit, but he's been hurt throughout the year. And now you're without Malik Hall, who's their veteran. They're in a little bit of trouble right now. They are.
Jeff, can I ask you a quick follow-up here? Because I do want to talk about the other side. It's pretty well documented that Chris Collins has pressure to do some winning here this year at Northwestern. So they're about to go to 6-2 on the season. Any thought process with the Wildcats here? They're about to beat Michigan State and Collins this particular year.
I mean, it's a hell of a win, certainly for Chris Collins. He'll take all the wins he can get right now, and he'll try to save his job. I think he needs probably, an NIT appearance, something of that nature, to be able to get another year. That would be my guess. He's got a new AD. The guy who hired him is now the ACC commissioner, Jim Phillips. So anytime you have a new AD, that's not a good sign for you. But again, you're not beating, to me, Michigan State. You're not beating them whole. Jaden Akins, he played 23 minutes tonight, but he had 3 points. He was ineffective. Malik Hall's still out. And again, it goes back to me, how Tom Izzo never went to the portal. How he brought the same team back, not even the same team because he lost a couple of guys, but pretty much the same team back when everybody else went to the portal. Tom Izzo did not, and I think it's going to end up, and I think it already is, biting him in the ass because they're not deep enough. Even if he had gotten another mid-major guy or two, just to give him some quality depth for times like this when you're down men.
Crazy the days we were saying, hey, Michigan State should have went to the port. It's wild. But no, they're right. They're injured. There's no depth. That's a recipe for disaster. Northwestern, Coach Collins is fighting for his, life essentially in the sense of college basketball, and this is a big win for him. And the Big Ten just keeps. It's a tricky league, man. It's a tricky league.
Not a lot of separation, especially right now. Like we thought Michigan State at its peak, Michigan State was really good earlier this season. Obviously, we saw them, hang with Gonzaga on the ship. They should have had that game, right, John?
Yeah, no, they should have. And Gonzaga, I love how they've been playing the heavy hitters, but that they should have had that game. And they've been playing really well as of late. And injuries is just part of the game. And it seems like there's been a lot more injuries this year than more so than not. So I don't know what trend that is.
I got an idea. As it pertains to the young guys, not necessarily the veterans, but the young guys. They all have agents because of NIL now, John, legally. They have these, they're not your typical agents. They're not necessarily the Bill Duffys and the Jeff Schwartzes of the world, but they're NIL agents. And I think a lot of these guys are still in their ear, where normally you would be listening to one guy, and that was Roy Williams, whether you were hurt as a freshman, right, coming in. And now you're listening to maybe an NIL agent who's saying, hey, John, you know what? If you're not 100%, you do not want to go out there and hurt your draft stock.
Right. Yeah. That's just another aspect. Cause I mean, when I was in college, we didn't really talk to agents. Like you said, it was just a coach, it was the team. And that's actually probably a good point, man. There's people hey, look, if you're not feeling good, sit back. Hey, look, not only are you going to affect your draft stock, we're trying to get, Popeye's chicken, got a Popeye's chicken deal on the table. We need you to play well, right? So,
right, and if you go for 4 points tonight and go 2 for 12, Popeyes might not. They might pull that thing.
Right. And if Popeyes not want you to post it, then you lose $5,000, right? So it's a big factor. So like even with Armando, right? Like, hey, I think Armando could have played through that injury, but due to everything going on with him kind of down bad, him not playing well. Who's to say his agent is say, hey, look, man, what are you doing? Sit this one out. You know what I mean? So it's definitely interesting.
Wait, Henson.
Yeah.
What would 2-time ACC Defensive Player of the Year, All ACC First Team Selection, John Henson, what would he have been doing with name, image, and likeness dollars, opportunities? Where would you have been signing with?
Listen, man, me, Big Z, Harrison. I talked to Kendall Marshall today because I was diving deep into these UNC stats. But man, it would have been a good time in the Hill. We were number one throughout the year for a couple, for the last year and a half of my career there. I would have been probably in some type of security company, like how Leaky Black's with the plumbing company, and Harrison with his Black Falcon. Who knows where he would have been? And like the guys might have signed shoe deals. It was just I always wondered, man. Or even let's talk about Tyler Hansbrough.
Oh my God!
I mean, he would have been pushing 7 figures, easy, right? So I mean, been on commercials.
Hey, we should have got Tyler on. We should have got Tyler on tonight. You guys could have commiserated together on Carolina. He would have jumped on.
Hey, T Hands will keep it real too, man. That's
I know we will. We had him on our show last year in down at the Final Four in New Orleans, and. What was his big fan of? What was his big thing that he hates the Beatles, right?
Beatles. Yeah, he hates the Beatles.
Hates the Beatles. Thinks they stink.
Which is horrible take.
I'm like, it's the worst take ever, Tyler. What are you doing?
I have Muhammad Ali and Beatles art in my house. He would not like my living room.
Unbelievable.
So let's get back on this here. How does North Carolina fix this?
They can. Go ahead, Henson. You know better than me.
I literally, so what I did today when we, talked earlier, I dived into these stats. I mean, I looked from 2010 when I was there till now. One thing that's a glaring discrepancy is the assist.
Yes.
They're only averaging 11 assists per game. And that's probably going to go down because teams are still inflated right now with the competition. So 11 assists right now is really, really, really bad. In Carolina's best years, they were 17, 18. The pace was a lot higher. So there's a lot of stats that aren't really adding up, and it comes down to the efficiency. They were actually, the guards were pretty efficient today, but they got nothing else from anybody else.
Right.
And
three guys.
Three guys, and that was it. So I would like to say if we could just start somewhere, guys. There's a lot to fix, but hey, let's share the ball. Let's get the ball moving. Let's get the ball popping. Like Iowa State had this thing popping today. They're gonna make some noise. I like how they play.
Well, here's the biggest thing, John.
Yeah.
So Carolina, what are they known for? They under Roy, and it's changed a little bit with Hubert now, but under Roy it was his bigs, right? He was going to get his bigs the ball. He's going to play two bigs at once. Hell or high water, he was going to play his two bigs no matter what at once.
He believes he can win the championship with two bigs. That is his.
That was his deal. Yes, Hubert has changed that a little bit, right? He understands the way the game has gone. He's adapted. However, the one thing that still Hubert wants to do is go, go, go. He wants to run and get points in transition. Well, today, I believe they had 12 fast break points. You know how many they had against Indiana? Five. That's a joke.
Yeah.
And the secondary break is as good for Carolina as anybody's over the years. And they're just getting nothing easy right now. And their half-court offense has sucked too because, like, when I was there in Portland, Henson, I was appalled by how bad their execution was down the stretch. Like, I'm watching that Alabama game, and I'm like, what? They're not running anything. They're not. It's AU ball 101, and like a couple times they ran not plays at the end of each overtime, but they ran a couple at least ball screens for RJ. And even if he misses them, he's taking open 15-footers. I can live with that. What I can't live with is Caleb Love step back, low percentage threes. For what?
So, I kind of funny. I always, they run a pro style offense, but keyword pro, right? When you try to run a pro style offense, you need to have pros. I mean, it's just be honest, right? And those guys have a lot of freedom, but they're not making the best decisions with that freedom. RJ is a lot better with making a good decision.
Yes.
With that freedom. But Caleb has taken on the role of being the guy, and someone's going to have to sacrifice to get this team into stuff. You've got Armando laboring back and forth. You got to get him touches. He's going to be more energetic. He's going to rebound more. He's going to play harder. That's how it's been with every big, not just him, with me and down the line.
There's the word, energetic. Yeah. North Carolina lacks that energy right now. And I get the sense what you said, Jeff. In the back of their minds, they're thinking, benefit of the doubt. We're going to figure this out. We did last year. That was last year. This is this year. You don't have Brady Manick, and there's two things that stand out this week. Number one, you gave up 77 points to Indiana. They went 3 for 13 from three. If a team's going 3 for 13 from three, they shouldn't be getting easy looks. They are not defending. North Carolina is not. The reason why North Carolina is not getting fast break points, boys, is because they're soft. You just got out rebounded. You just got out rebounded today by Virginia Tech, 39-25.
Hey, Trevor, clip this up. I'm sending it in.
No, you don't know the background on this, Henson.
But right, though, like that, and there's a lot of issues from the guard play to the bigs. And you're right. The fast break, it's all relative. You play better defense, you get more fast breaks, you get more turnovers, you get more points. Yeah, so I think that's what's missing. And like I said, I think they need to start share the ball. I think that's the first thing to solve a lot of issues. Let's share the rock. Even in terms of Leaky Black, right? I feel like there's a lot more pressure on him offensively than he needs to have. I mean, he's shooting a lot of tough shots. Don't know if that's the NIL agent, Jeff, but we got to figure that one out. But there's a lot of problems. I think you start with like defense. I think if we go defense first, right, and let's share the ball, and we can live with the results after that.
Which is crazy to me that they don't understand that concept, because it worked when they started doing it last year. So they've seen. I always compare the Carolina a little bit to the Boston Celtics, okay, in a way, because the Celtics a year ago today were a shitty team. They were a 500 team. They were 500, just like Carolina was. And then the Celtics figured it out. Ime jumped them at that point, held them accountable. They learned how to play together, how to share the ball, and they won. And what did they do? They picked up where they left off last year. People would say, well, they didn't win it all, but they still got within a game of basically of winning the whole thing last year. They picked up with a different coach. They picked up where they left off because they understood how to sacrifice, how to play together. Obviously, they brought in good Malcolm Brogdon, help, whatever. Carolina, you learned that last year. How can you not pick up and play a similar way with passion, with intensity, with toughness? I get you don't have Brady Manick. I understand. He's a huge, huge part of that. And Pete Nance isn't nearly as tough as Brady Manick or the shooter Brady Manick was from the perimeter. But the other guys, you could still play the same way, can't you?
Yes.
I would even challenge you to say Pete Nance has probably been their most consistent guy, as far as just night in, night out, at least knowing what we're going to get from him. And then also, we don't think about time, man. When Rory was there, sometimes when they struggle, he made lineup changes, right? He sat guys down. So,
he had more equity, John. He had more equity than that's the thing is Hubert.
Right.
Hubert's still trying to figure it out, right? Like everybody's like, well, build the statue of Hubert, and he did. Listen, he did the two things that probably merit a statue. He again, the K wins, right? And get into the championship game, all that. But he's still young in his head coaching career. He's trying to figure this out. He's not Roy. He is the most positive human being that I've been around, which is an unbelievable trait that I wish I had more of that. But I also feel like, and maybe there's got to be times behind closed doors that he's jumping these guys. He may not be MFing them, but he's jumping them.
Let me tell you something. When we used to lose and we lost our games in North Carolina when I was there, we used to be like, all right, boys, it's 8 o'clock. Let's get in bed. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. So, hopefully there's that type of energy there, man, because it's still time. It's still time. They've got to pick it up. But it's crunch time. I mean, it's Panic at the Disco right now, and we got to kind of they like you said, it's got to be a gut check. They got to figure it out. I'm worried, but you know what? I was worried last year too. So
we asked you on YouTube, is UNC still a Final Four threat? Which, by the way, on our YouTube feed tonight, feel free to comment in with any questions. It is a Sunday night. Jeff Goodman has a fresh top 25. We're resetting things in the sport ahead.
I got a fresh shirt for the occasion. I'm ready.
Yeah, well, the team on that fresh shirt is the team on your fresh shirt in your top 25?
They were long gone before today. They were long gone. I couldn't put it with a straight face. I could no longer. I couldn't put them in there.
All right. Feel free to send us a question. We asked you if you think North Carolina is still a Final Four threat. 70% of you said absolutely not. All right. All right. Let's transition here to another blue blood.
Yeah.
In London today, Kentucky meeting Michigan. I think we would all agree to a degree, and check me if I'm wrong on this, that today for Kentucky was a gotta have it game. They needed to find a way to win this game. They did. 73-69. 5 scores in double figures for the Wildcats. Oscar Tshiebwe with 13 and 14. And Cason Wallace continues to look like one of the best players in the country. Why do you love him, Jeff Goodman?
He's the only player 2 summers ago at the Peach Jam. It was pandemic Peach Jam then. And, it was like you went in. By the time I got to the Peach Jam, they did like 2 weeks straight. By the time I got there a week in, there were already like 30 players that were knocked out and had gotten COVID and were quarantining. So, you didn't have the access to the kids, whatever. Usually I'd go up to, even though I don't go up to kids like I used to when Henson was playing back then. I was a lot younger and could actually connect with some of these high school kids. I'm too damn old to do that now. The only player I went up to at the Peach Jam was Cason Wallace. And you know what I told him? You are the toughest MFer here. I love the way you play. You play hard as shit. You bring it on the defensive end. And that's what you want to see. Like in high school, Henson knows it. Like how many dudes play defense in AAU ball? Very few. You did because it was your calling card. But most guys aren't doing that. Casey Wallace was doing that, and now I'm seeing what he can do shooting the ball. I'm seeing what he can do running the offense. I would make a case that he is the best overall freshman in the country so far, all around.
I would have to agree to that. I mean, he hit some big boy shots today. Defensively, he sat down and guarded guys. And, that's what everyone loves, man. Everyone loves two-way players. And he is the two-way player as a freshman that you would want on your team. And I would even to say that Kentucky is kind of like taking on that kind of what he is and what he brings him defensively. He picks up the level of energy, and I love watching him play. It was a fun game today. I actually really like Michigan. I feel like they're right on the brink of kind of breaking through.
Why do you think that?
Just the games that I've watched they play, man, they're right there. A couple bad decisions. With Hunter Dickinson, I love how he's playing. They're kind of feeding the ball to him and letting him play a little bit, which is kind of something that I wish Carolina would do at Armando, but I'm not going to see them again. But they're right there, man. They're just right there, and I love that team as well. Jet Howard, he's going to be one of the best young players, if not already in the country. They're a team to keep an eye on too, man.
They just need better guard play. That's the biggest thing for them is a point guard play. To me, Jet Howard, Hunter has gotten so much better passing the ball to the post. That was the most impressive thing I thought about him today was he trusted his teammates, right?
Yes.
Like a lot of last year, even he didn't completely trust those young guys, and he's got a completely new team this year, right? Like the young Caleb Houston left last year, Diabate left last year after 1 year, and he's got a new group, and he's really trusting a lot of those. Some of them have gone from freshmen to sophomores, but they need help beyond Hunter and Jet Howard.
Yeah, no, I agree. They definitely need help. They need consistency. And if they can get that, man, like I said, I feel like they're right there, man. Like they're just right there. And they're always in games. They're not getting beat up. Kentucky just played really well today over there, in London, which is kind of cool, man.
Well,
London College. Wow.
You would have liked that, right?
I would have loved it, man.
Would you have broken curfew before? Did you ever – wait, here's one. Did you ever break curfew, John Henson?
You know what? I never broke curfew. But you know what? We never had a curfew.
You didn't?
We never had a curfew. It was, and I think that was something that actually helped me at the next level. They didn't put tape on our doors. Coach Williams never said, don't hey, look, to be honest,
because he was playing because he was playing cards. That's why he was out, right? He was out rolling the dice or playing blackjack.
But it's listen. It's a candid story. Coach Williams, he said, look, man, I'm not going to tell you guys when to go to bed or you can't do this, you can't do that. If you come here to play the next day and you play hard, play smart, play to win, play as a team, hey, look, have a blast. So, I think, but that is something that literally I think helped me at the next level. It wasn't like when I got to the NBA, it was like, oh, all of a sudden I have this freedom. Like, nah, I've been had this freedom. Let's lock in tonight. Let's play. I can go get dinner or I cannot get dinner. We can, so I think there's something to that, kind of having a little freedom, because I know some things I knew had tape on the door. I'm not in schools, but it's tough.
Didn't that just reaffirm that you were a Tar Heel playing for Roy and that you weren't playing for Kay?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I listen, I know the Dukies for sure. I mean, the Dukies probably had self-checkers, they probably had shifts at each other's door, right? You probably had, Jabari Parker from 10 to 12, and then he goes to sleep, you know what I'm saying? And then somebody else comes back out. So, and
we really think Austin Rivers didn't break curfew?
I don't think Austin.
I know Austin. He found a way.
You found a way? All right. Well, I don't know, man. I'm pretty. Duke probably had somebody at the end of the hall, motion detectors. Who knows, man?
Here's the follow-up on Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys in the pool? Which pool are you in here? They're good. They're not great. And that's what they'll be. Or that was encouraging. I still think they can be great. And they still could be a team that makes a deep March run. Where you fall?
Deep March run. Deep March run for me. I think they have the pieces. Now, again, CJ Frederick hasn't shot the ball well yet. right? But they've got, listen, if you put it together for me and say, you've got two good point guards, Casey Wallace to me should be the guy who's getting in. Severe Wheeler made some big plays today, but he has limitations shooting the ball. Casey Wallace is now a proven shooter, which I didn't think I'd say early on. But I think some guys get off to a good start as freshmen and then come down to earth shooting the ball. When you watch him shoot, his mechanics are really good. I think he can keep it up at a decent level, not a 44% three-point level, but at a shoot 35 to 38 the rest of the year. That would be a hell of a season shooting the ball. So Casey Wallace can be an elite two-way point guard. Then you've got two shooters, Reeves and Frederick. Yeah. One of them's got to shoot it well each night. Okay. Yes. They don't both have to. One of them's got to really make shots, and Wallace can make shots. And then you got three other dudes that probably aren't really floor spacers, but you got Oscar, you got Toppin, and you got, other guys that you can kind of fill in around there, right? They're not overly deep, but they got Damian Collins. They got the freshman, Chris, I want to say Singleton, but it's not
Livingston.
Livingston. Why do I want to say Singleton? That's the Florida State kid, I think, from years ago. Or maybe that's a baseball player.
And the baseball guy.
Baseball guy, too.
No, wait a minute. Hold on. I have to clarify something. Because you said, I love playing devil's advocate on this.
Yeah.
You said that Kentucky has all the pieces.
I do think they do.
Okay, so that would indicate to me and a lot of YouTube commenters that the one piece that is the pendulum piece is the coaching.
Yeah, I don't think Cal's the greatest X's and O's guy. I don't. And I've said this over and over. With equal talent, can John Calipari win a title? I'm not sure I'm saying they're going to win a title here, but I don't think they're going to get knocked out in the first weekend this year. I think they've got a team that fits better. They know how to – like last year, they didn't know how to use Ty Washington. That was a problem to me. They couldn't figure out the Ty Severe Wheeler thing. And I felt like Ty needed the ball in his hands more, needed to be able to make plays. It's hard to do when you have Severe. I think Severe is best coming off the bench, to be honest. And I would go Casey Wallace, Reeves, and Frederick, two shooters, with then Toppin and Oscar. Because then I think you got three guys that can make shots on the perimeter because Toppin and Oscar can't really shoot it. Like, as much as Oscar wants to show he can, which he tried today, that's not where you want him. You want him down there doing work.
Yeah, he's Oscar's kind of the heartbeat of the team, and everybody kind of follows his lead.
Yes.
If you look at the Kentucky schedule, it seems like they're trending upwards. They also have some tests coming up with UCLA coming up. They have to play Alabama. So Missouri is not a fun place to play. So they're going to be battle tested, and like I said, I think they're trending up. And today kind of showed the kind of balance that they have. Listen, I have confidence Kentucky can still get to Houston and be a Final Four team. Like I really do. In fact, I would put them, if you're asking me, and I think, Fanta, you may ask us later in the show. I haven't thought long about it, but I would put Kentucky as one of my Final Four teams. I like how they're constructed. Yes, John Calipari is the X's and O's guy, scares the hell out of me. Because I still believe if Kendall Marshall had not gotten hurt, John Henson, if he had not hurt his wrist, John Calipari still would not have a national title today. So when I was looking up Carolina stats today, side note, right, I was looking at all the stats from my year, 08-09, and I called Harrison Barnes and Kendall Marshall. I said, I'm doing the show tonight. I'm sick to my stomach, guys. They're like, why are you sick? I said, I looked up all the analytics and the stats, and we align directly with the 08-09 team. I mean, literally directly from points per game to top five in these categories. And so I said, you know what they did? I said, you know what they did? So I literally was sitting around just like, oh man, how that hurts. But that's life.
We have a YouTube comment in from a man named Will Coates.
Mm-hmm.
Will Coates says, Henson. Ask Zeller if he recalls the name Austin Rivers in the Dean Dome.
That's a soft spot because I'm gonna tell you a funny story on that one too. We're in the huddle, right? They're gonna run this play. They're gonna switch. They're gonna switch. They're gonna run a play. They're gonna switch on Austin. Don't let him shoot a three. That's it. Don't let him shoot a three. Hey, hold on, guys. I know, right? What happens? As soon as it left his hand, I'm looking. I see the flight of the ball. I knew it was going in. I knew it was going in. So it is what it is. And then on top of with the Cal championship discussion, you know what Anthony Davis told me and Deron Lamb told me? They said when you guys got eliminated, we knew we had won it. Yep. You were the only team that we were kind of worried about. He said after you guys were done, we knew we had it.
Well, that game in Lexington was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a good game. Like you against AD, that was such a great like that's a matchup. That was a game I'll never forget. And I wanted to see it again. Everybody wanted to see that game again. And then when Kendall got hurt, I knew you guys were done. I knew you couldn't get there.
All right. Let's transition here. We're at 9:35 and our YouTube chat's active. I'm trying to follow the chat and what they're saying here. And we have a lot of people who are pushing for us to say something about Purdue. The Boilers moved to 8-0. They beat Minnesota 89-70. Not surprising to see Purdue win that game. But how about the fact that one Zachary Edey had 31 points and 22 rebounds? Jeff, your reaction?
I'm not surprised. I mean, honestly, and I mean this with all sincerity, he might have put 20 and 15 on John Henson. That's how big and dominant he is. And if he gets the ball in there, and that's the key, right? The key is him now playing 30 minutes a game and you getting him the ball where he needs it. And I don't know what you would have done with him, John. Honestly, I don't know. Like, what did you wait?
I see. The thing was, he would have probably been guarding him.
Right.
So
because he was bigger, he was stronger.
It was stronger. But it would have been tough. I mean, he had 31 and 22 today.
He's 7'4", John.
Those are sick numbers. Like I can't even like in a college basketball game to put up those numbers are, and they're upticking his minutes, and so he's got to be thrusting himself into the Player of the Year conversation with how he's playing.
He would be it right now.
Yeah. So and Purdue's playing well. So I love, like I said, I'm a big guy home. I love him. I don't know what I would have done with the kid. We probably would have had a dig down double, maybe. We probably would have, what we would have done though? We would have ran him to death. That's what we had. Yes. That's how we would have changed the game for him. That's what we used to do with bigs. We say, hey, look, Z, I board, you take off. And so that's how we got those big guys that kind of were tough down there. About the second half, midway through the second half, we would have had him laboring. You would have had to go sit down, might have had a cramp or two.
The amazing thing, I sat down with Zach Edey for a while in Portland, and the amazing thing is this is a kid who didn't grow up playing basketball. So he said, he was ranked like the 450th best player, like in the rankings. He wasn't even on the board. He was like in the 400s coming out, and everybody told him how bad he was. And he gets to campus, and he's from Canada. So it's pandemic year. So he said he gained like 30 or 40 pounds. Mm-hmm. Gets to campus, starts in practice, and he said, I'm awful. Can't catch the ball. I can't run. I can't do anything. I suck. And Matt Painter keeps telling the guys, keep feeding him the ball. Keep feeding him the ball. Like Painter knew what he could be down the road. And he has just bought in, and he didn't complain. The beauty of Zach Edey was last year, Henson, he was better than Trevion Williams, okay? They were two bigs who couldn't play together, but he was clearly better in kicking his ass in practice. Painter knew they couldn't play together, so he literally split 40 minutes down the middle for the most part. And a lot of times Trevion was better at the end of games because he could really score. Yep. So Zach Edey never complained once. Not once all of last year. He has just stayed the course. And like, it's such a beautiful story in a way of a kid that like still to this day says, like, I probably could have bitched and moaned and complained. Like, he can't get NIL because he's from Canada. Yeah. So he's like, I could be upset about it, but I'm just happy and thankful that Matt Painter and Purdue gave me an opportunity.
Yeah, that's a credit to Coach Painter and his staff and just the culture that he's built over there. Purdue is always in a conversation, no matter what. They're always somewhat, competitive. And with him, coming, essentially having his coming out party this year, they're a force to be reckoned with. And so I'm excited to see what he does. I love the way he plays. I love it, man. He's the guy over there, man. So I'm happy for him. I didn't even know his background story, which makes me even more of a fan of his. And if he can stay healthy, man, and not be too banged up, man, they're going to be a problem down the stretch.
William asks a great question, John, on our YouTube chat, which feel free, subscribe, chat, join us here. Feel the 68 After Dark, sponsored by Bet Rivers. Feel68.shop. Check it out. Check out our merchandise. We got a bunch of fun stuff. William asks, ask Henson how he would guard Edey from a coaching perspective. If you're drawing up a scout for Edey, how would you guard him? It's a great question.
We got to front him. Meet him at the free throw line. Make him work to get down there, and we got to front him. And we just got to play off the front. See how he's feeling tonight. We'll maybe do maybe a dig down, maybe make him think a little bit. And if he's feeling it, we double and we play out of that. And that's probably the best you can do. You're gonna have to be cohesive defensively with him. A team that is not together defensively will not beat them, especially if they need the help. So yeah, beat him at the free throw line, stay physical with him, front him on the catch, and
Patrick Young said on this show last night, you can't front Edey.
Yeah, so that's something that I guess you could say that, because if you don't have the proper size, they still could go over the top. But,
so the answer is you just pray.
Well, we gotta do something, right? Like, I don't think you just let him catch down there. You know what I'm saying? Maybe do how the UVA plays, immediate double down, but that puts your defense in a bind. So I'd have to watch some more film. Come back to me on that one.
Okay, good, very good question. Hey, momentarily, folks, we have Bobby Hurley, the head coach of Arizona State, coming on. How about the Sun Devils? 8-1 on the year after a win over Stanford. Let's stay right there, Jeff Goodman. How surprising is this? Arizona State's won 8 of their first 9 games.
Yeah, it is surprising. But when I talked to Bobby Hurley before the year, like, he went portaling, like everybody did, not named Tom Izzo. And he got lucky in a sense, because he was able to get a high-level point guard in Frankie Collins. Now, they won tonight with Frankie. They won the other night against Colorado without Frankie Collins. He was hurt, but he came back tonight and played against Stanford. But it was kind of Michigan's loss there, right? A big thing last year. They brought in another transfer, in the offseason, Jalen Llewellyn from the Ivy League. And I think Frankie Collins took it personally and just said, like, the hell with it, I'm out of here. I didn't play much last year anyway as a freshman. I'm going to try somewhere different. He goes to Arizona State. Arizona State also gets the Cambridge brothers, one being a really good offensive player, the other being a really good defender. And listen, you need some luck.
Yeah.
Who got luck in the portal last year? The last 2 years more than anybody, John Fanta? The Providence Friars. Right. The Providence Friars got some luck, and look at what it did for them. Things can change one way or the other quickly.
Yes, and what the portal does, John Henson, is it gives the, quote, middle tier program that you don't think of as potential, they could win multiple tournament games, a shot to do so. Folks, it's not a coincidence that Providence crushed the transfer portal and came out of nowhere to go to the program's first Sweet 16 in a quarter century. The portal had everything to do with that. But as much as you can hit on the portal, Henson, you could miss on the portal too.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's something new to me. The portal. I actually, before the season, I kind of looked. I literally texted Jeff. I said, Jeff, this is like NBA free agency on steroids. Just all these guys coming in and out. Even with last year, when you think about the team, Kansas, right? Like, Remy Martin gave them a much needed kind of boost, right? Kind of as coming in. So yeah, the portal game is changing, and I'm excited to see where this goes, because it's mind blowing to me sometimes, because you go to college, right? You go to college, right? You go to school, you go to be a part of a city, of a program. Now guys are like, all right, well, that was fun. Let me go ahead and this, so it's interesting.
The portal has variance, Jeff. Like it does, as much as, and in this case, you got to catch some luck, because let's face it, with COVID and everything in between the last couple of years, some of these guys who have stayed around in college, you don't know if they're on their third school because, frankly, they're a losing player, or they're on their third school because COVID impacted their comfort level at a campus. They wanted to get out of there because all they saw was the wall of their dorm room for a year and a half.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of a crapshoot to some degree. You want to do as much research as you can. You hope other coaches, you know them well enough that they can be transparent with you. Sometimes, getting a guy in a second or third stop can help because you kind of have them, right? Like, first time, maybe you don't, they don't buy in quite as much, but after missing on your first stop, you're a little more focused. But yeah, I think, again, Frankie Collins was the big one for Arizona State. That was the point guard. That's the best point guard that Bobby Hurley's had. I also think here's my other take with Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley got 2 big-time top 25-ish recruits. Josh Christopher, he left after a year. He's a fringe player in the NBA right now, I think. Maybe he's playing minutes for a bad team, but and Marcus Bagley, Marvin Bagley's brother, who just hasn't been healthy and it hasn't really worked out, and now he's too busy tweeting instead of playing. But I think here's the thing with Bobby Hurley. Sometimes you understand what players work for you. Sometimes certain coaches can't coach those top 25 players. They just can't. Like, it doesn't work as well. They need the lunch pail guys that are going to play hard, that aren't going to be prima donnas. John, like, you had some guys at Carolina that were, I don't want to say prima donnas, but like even Harrison needed to grow up. He needed to grow up. He came in as the number 1 player, and it took him time. He thought he was going to be gone in a year, and it took him time.
Yeah, I remember specifically, I'll never forget it. We played Marquette in a tournament, and Marquette goes, we're over here, eating McDonald's, and they're over there eating steak and eggs, man. We're motivated, right? Yep. And we ended up beating them by 30 because we really felt some type of way about that. I hope no one ever says that to the wrong team again. And like I said, Marquette was that was the type of makeup that team had, that the coach that they needed, that was made them successful. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. In reference to Arizona State, hey, those guys are the portal guys. They play hard, they play together, and they're getting the same results as a coach that's got a bunch of, you would say 5-star guys, maybe kind of guys that are used to having certain comforts and things like that. So yeah, there's different strokes for different folks, and I think that's kind of understated in this game, in college basketball as well. Because
who I thought of, Jeff? Who I just thought of that is the epitome of that, of a guy who just fits better with the lunch pail type of players, might not be able to win over the best of the best, although he did earlier this week against
Mike Anderson, John Fanta, Mike Anderson. I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, we'll get to that in a moment. I was going to say Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart fits better at Marquette than he does at Texas. At Texas, he just I was down in Austin this past week, and I asked some people around Texas about Shaka Smart, and they said, great guy, not a bad thing to say about him. It just didn't work.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to understand that you're better served. You're a coach who's just better equipped to coach those 50 to 100 kids. Mike White was like that at Florida a little bit. Mike White got some top 25 kids, top 50 kids. He hadn't been used to it from coaching at Louisiana Tech, or even really as an assistant coach. And I remember him telling me a couple of years ago down in Charleston, he was like, this is a major adjustment for me, coaching these kids and all the stuff that comes around them, not just the kid, but the entourage around the kid, whether it's the AU coach, whether it's the parents. Like I've always said, like, Duke parents are an entity unto themselves. They really are. Like, they are elite level in terms of they're different. They're different.
A little pushy. I can see that.
Yes. So like Kay knew how to handle it. Shire is going to be interesting to see how he handles it now, because he's sitting some of these, Dariq Whitehead, Derek Lively. At some point, he's going to have to play them at the end of the game, probably by conference play, or else he's going to feel some heat from some of these parents. What do you got, Fanta?
All right, we're at 9:49, so we're going to accelerate here because there's a bunch of other stuff that happened today.
Yeah,
we do have commenters though.
Okay.
First, Andre says this, John, your immediate reaction. To be fair to Harrison, though, he needed the way Marshall played to be successful. Had Roy not made the switch from Drew, he would have never elevated to what he did.
I mean, I would say I wouldn't have elevated. I don't think we would have elevated as a team without that switch. My efficiency points per game went up. Harrison started playing a lot better. Z started it was a whole transition. And that was a change that Roy did not want to make. And that's actually something we're actually talking about it, the parents, right? Because as a college coach, you have to think about, if I sit this guy and I told his mom that he's, my guy, right? Now I got to answer to this. And so it was a tough decision with sitting, Larry, who's still a close friend of mine, but it needed to be done. And it helped the program as a whole. And, it was, Henson. And that was crazy because Coach Williams does not like transfer. He doesn't. He feels really away when you on a transfer. You're feeling like you want to transfer. So, that was a tough decision for him to make. I know internally, seriously tough decision.
Henson, would you split $100 with me to get special access to Goodman's all parents all time team?
Oh my God, I couldn't.
Listen. I would love that because I had an AAU program, and these are kids in like 9th, 10th grade, and I actually had to kind of take a step back a little bit because we win a tournament, Jeff. We win a tournament, and I'm walking out, I'm celebrating, I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, why is everybody upset? We just won.
It's amazing, right?
Right? Yeah, the kids are mad, the parents are mad. So my boy was coaching. I said, time out. I said, what's going on here? He's like, man, I've been dealing with this all year. So I can't imagine it at the next level, especially with college. And obviously me being at Carolina, there was things going on there as well as every program with parents and playing time. But I think that's just part of the job. It's part of a college job. You got those parents' babies, and they're gonna fight for them.
Yep.
I think we've got Bobby Hurley. We've got Bobby Hurley from his vehicle right now, coming off of Arizona State beating Stanford 68-64. Sun Devils are 8-1 on the year. Bobby, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me, guys?
We got you. We can't see you, but that may be okay. You're in the car driving home. You're just calling in. If you want to put the video on, you certainly can.
Let me see if I can. I'm not good with technology. So hold on.
Well, we know you Hurleys. You got to be better than your brother, at least.
Now.
We don't see you yet, but we could jump right in with you. Oh, there you are, Coach.
There he is.
Look at the tie and all. You haven't.
Why do you have a North Carolina jersey on? I'm out. I'm getting off this call.
Because I'm in with John Henson, and I'm trying to see if we can rise the Tar Heels from the dead. They've lost 4 straight, so I'm trying to help Henson get through this right now. They're struggling.
He's trolling me, Coach.
I am trolling him. I'm trolling Henson. That's
Bobby,
the only reason.
Bobby, on that note, since he wore an effing North Carolina shirt for an interview with you, do you have a Goodman story you can tell on the air?
Hey, what about dinner? Dinner last year when I come out. Remember, we went out for dinner at your club, and I think you won the next night. Was that last year?
I believe so. I think it was UCLA in 3 overtimes.
Right?
Yes.
Did you beat them, or you just hung with them?
No, we beat them in 3 overtimes last year.
Right.
I think.
But you were there the night before.
Yeah. That's something for an Arizona guy to do that. For Arizona
right. Think about that.
I appreciate that.
We shouldn't be talking about this publicly.
Well, let's talk about your team. 68-64 win over Stanford tonight, Bobby. You're 8-1 on the year, and congratulations on the start to the season. Why has this team achieved success?
We're guarding at an elite level. All our metrics say that we're one of the best defensive teams in the country, and our activity, our deflections. We're able to speed Stanford up some tonight, especially early in the game, and we have presence around the basket. Warren Washington has been really good. We got, so that end of the floor, we've been elite. We're still a little bit of a work in progress on offense, and hopefully we continue to improve at that end of the floor. But there's an incredible will to win that we have right now, and connectivity as a group. So it's been a lot of fun to coach these guys.
So you are now 8-1. Your brother is undefeated, and I have them ranked number 5 in the country. So the Hurleys are rolling right now. But I once got a quote from a member of the Hurley family, and it went like this, Bobby. It went like this: if they win, if they lose, they're miserable. If they win, they're still miserable. Are you miserable right now, or do you guys feel pretty good?
I mean, at the press conference, I mean, even in the locker room, I had to say, hey, look, fellas, not every game is going to be like Michigan, or, the Colorado win when you win at the last second. It was kind of like a somber locker room. So I had to energize the group, say, hey, we're playing a league game right now against a team that was desperate to win and needed to win. And, we did what we had to do, and we won a league game. And now we're moving on. So I'm trying to be more positive.
Are you writing anything on your wrist like your brother is?
Yeah, I didn't even ask him about that. That was crazy because we both have so many things that are happening. And once you see something, I looked at it, I was like, wow, okay. And then I never had a chance to talk to Dan about that.
Henson, what do you got for your Duke comrade here?
I'm gonna go with you guys have an elite defensive unit metrically. So when you started the season, did you kind of just see that as is that a philosophy of yours? You say, hey, look, like I'm looking at film, I'm watching guys. We can be elite defensively, and we are going to be, or is that just something that is mandatory in how you kind of carry yourself or want your team to be?
Well, I mean, years ago, I had guard U started here, and we could score in the 90s, and we getting enough stops. So we kind of shifted gears a little bit to, recruit to get more size around the basket, and guys like Warren Washington and Alonzo Gaffney and Devin Cambridge, and just an elite core of perimeter defenders too. Just great athleticism and length, and those things are paying dividends. And we still have to improve, at the offensive end to get to where we want to go as a team. But, we're heading in the right direction. It's a great feeling. You could go into every game knowing your defense is so solid that it's going to give you a chance to win.
I always have to tell people all the time, because I was kind of a defensive guy by trade. It's my career essentially. And I say, listen, hey, look, I didn't make $300 million, but I made a pretty good living playing defense. So it's not a bad job.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and, look, it's, again, you play that under the floor at a high level, and you got a chance to cut down nets. And right now, we're winning, and we're one rebound away from being undefeated, and, have regrets about that one game that we let, slip away. But just love the will to win, the desire to win this team has, especially, for this week, 2 Pac-12 games to go on the road and play Colorado and win, and down 15 at halftime just shows you how much mental toughness and having a great locker room right now.
Bobby, speaking of that great locker room, to have the Cambridge brothers, to have Devin and Desmond, what's a story or something that you can share with us behind the curtain of what it's like having a pair of brothers on the team?
Well, they're so different, really. One brother is a freak athlete, and a lob threat all the time, and just all the intangibles, and great teammate. And the other brother is Dez, is kind of nonstop chatter. He'll hit a three, and he'll be the guy to shush the crowd, and very animated, very talkative on the court, and clutch, but more as a shot maker. So they're really different basketball players, but they brought so much personality to our team.
So, Fanta, the best story that Bobby actually could tell is in 2015 when I'm at ESPN. I bounced around to 4 different places that first weekend. I always tried to do that, right? I think that might have been my first. I don't know if it was my first year at ESPN. I'm not sure. But so I go in, and Bobby's at Buffalo, and it's the second year, and they're going to the NCAA tournament. And trying to think of what I can do with Bobby. We're going to do something fun, something different. What are we going to do? So we decide Bobby drinks at that point, Bobby, was it one Red Bull before the game and one at halftime?
Yes, one before, one at halftime. Yep.
So we decide we're going to do this. We're going to drink 3 Red Bulls before the game. I think Bobby drinks just one, but I'm drinking 3. And I literally drink 3 Red Bulls, and I'm not a guy who drinks Red Bulls at all. And Bobby's cracking up because he knows what I'm in store for the rest of the day. I'm bouncing off walls. Like I'm basically crashed on the couch in the lobby later that night. I'm so tired. But I think that was it for you. You didn't do Red Bulls again.
No, I've been banned by my wife. My wife, Leslie, has ruled Red Bulls out of my life. So I've now had to shift to Diet Coke, which is acceptable in the Hurley household.
Average.
No, I don't. I mean, there's no telling how many over the course of game day.
Like I'll usually average about 4 a day, Diet Cokes.
Like today I was in the gym at like 7 and I did my workout routine, big water. And then after that, it's straight Diet Coke the rest of the day.
Like,
maybe
like
5
6,
or 6.
7?
5 or 6. Yeah.
My record.
Stanford forced me to have at least one more tonight, that I wanted to have.
That game got pretty tight at the end there.
Well, yeah, we didn't do a great job. In the first half, we had a little stretch of turnovers. In the second half, to start the half, we weren't great. And our offense was turning into their offense. So it was not great. But, I feel terrific about this team. I think it has all kinds of NCAA tournament potential. And we're just kind of getting started because we have some new guys like Frankie Collins that, Frankie was sick and missed the Colorado game, and he was kind of winded through our game today and fought through it. But, man, he makes us so much better because of his playmaking and playing both ends of the floor and getting guys shots.
Yeah, best point guard you've had so far, and hell of a start, Bobby. Congrats. We will let you get going. We got to get going. I got to check Marcus Bagley's Twitter. So we'll talk to you soon.
All right, I'm going to end this call there. All right, see you guys.
See ya. All right. There he is, Bobby Hurley, head coach of the 8-1 Arizona State Sun Devils. Fanta. Listen, what people don't realize about Arizona State, and I went to Arizona, so I can say this with conviction. It is a brutal job. Nobody's been able to sustain success there in 40 or 50 years. In fact, I think Bobby was the first coach to take him in 2 straight tournaments in like 20 years. And he was, if the tournament wasn't scrapped in the pandemic year, they were set to go a 3rd year. And the last 2 had been brutal, absolutely brutal. In the bubble, they were really bad with Remy Martin. Last year, they were bad. And it looks like he's got them back on track this year.
Yeah, it's not an easy place to win.
Nope.
And it's not an easy conference to win. Right. If your name's not UCLA or Arizona or Oregon, even though Oregon's been down here as of late, they're not going to stay down forever. So for Arizona State, it's a great start to the year. They're one of the biggest surprises of the season. I mean, let's face it here. We have had – Henson, what are you smiling about?
Chuckling at the Hurley. I'm just gonna hang up the phone right now. That was
Hey, the Hurleys. If you want to be entertained, Henson, just hang out with one of the Hurleys. Pick either one of them. If you get them both together, it's.
In other words, Henson, Hurley did have a 10 o'clock curfew.
I mean, listen. When he said it, his reaction just like he was dead serious. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful with the Hurleys. Once I was on SportsCenter, and this is early on, and the host was a guy named Matt Berry. He's still there. He went to Arizona State. Yeah. This is when Arizona State was really bad the first year or 2, and I was ripping on Matt Berry because again I'm an Arizona guy. Arizona I think was really good that year, and I killed him. Well, I get a call from one of Hurley's assistants saying, "Hey, Bobby's pissed, man. He heard about it. He is pissed that you killed Arizona State." So I had to call him and be like, "Bobby, come on, man. I was just joking with an Arizona State guy on there."
Well,
that was good.
Yeah, right. That was great. And we thank Bobby Hurley for taking the time from his car.
you go. Defend your heels.
All right, it's 10:04, so we are late. We're late. A lot of other things happen. Should we stay on for 5 more minutes here?
Yeah. Let's knock out a couple.
Okay. All right.
We got a toast.
We're gonna get to toast tonight. I gotta ask you about this. A top 10 team fell today and fell at home. I mean, Creighton loses to Nebraska. When these teams woke up this morning, Nebraska was 1-9. 1-9 in their last 10 meetings with the Creighton Blue Jays. Today, though, was the Huskers' day. Sam Griesel, who grew up in Lincoln, helps Nebraska beat Creighton 63-53. Creighton only scores 53 points. They shot 10 of 40 from beyond the arc. How concerning is this for the Creighton Blue Jays, who have lost 3 in a row?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead. No,
I'll start. You can pick up. I think we're both concerned, and how can you not be? Because you can't lose at home. It's one of the better home court advantages. You can't lose at home to I don't even want to call them an in-state rival, because there's no rivalry there, and there hasn't been a rivalry there in a while in basketball, right? Like Creighton has dominated, and they came in. I think I had them ranked preseason number 3 this year. They had everybody coming back. They got a team that fits together pretty well. They have Baylor Shireman, one of the best transfers. They got multiple point guards. They got a really good defensive big man, and they get punked at home by Nebraska. What the hell is going on here? Fred Hoiberg is fighting for his job. I give him credit. Again, another guy that through the portal is going to be able to just maybe reinvent their team and have a chance this year. But to me, it says a whole lot more about Creighton and the fact that maybe we anointed them with something based on what they did in the NCAA tournament last year without key pieces, right? Without Nembhard, without Kalkbrenner. They almost beat Kansas. They did a hell of a job. We know how good a Coach McDermott is, but man, they got to get tougher.
Well, so I'm going to counter it. And that's the art of this show. We can disagree with each other. So I actually think that Creighton has a level of toughness to them. Some of the finesse.
They didn't defensively at the end of the game. They didn't defensively.
But here's what I'll say. In previous times, the strength of Creighton was that they could just outscore you, that their best defense was actually their offense. Right now, that's not the case. They did not get good looks against Texas. I think the residual effects of playing Texas now happened in this game because they got in their own heads. Guys, Arthur Kaluma is not right now. I mean, he goes for 2 points, 0 for 8 from the field in this one. Ryan Nembhard, 3 for 13. Trey Alexander, 3 for 12. You mean to tell me Nembhard and Alexander went a combined 6 for 25 on their home court against Nebraska? That team, for whatever reason right now, offensively, I'm not as concerned with who they are on the defensive end of the floor. I actually think this is one of the more willing Creighton teams to defend. On the offensive end of the floor, they are off right now. They're off. They're taking too many shots that are just not good shots. That's not Creighton basketball. I think they'll right the ship, but that's not who they are.
But you know what the good thing is? They could get some depth now. If I'm McDermott, I look at it differently. All right, these guys aren't playing the way I want them to play. I'm going to play I'm going to play Mike Miller's kid a little bit. I'm going to play King Moore. You got to figure it out. You got to get some depth now so you get 7 or 8 strong.
I'm going to counter everything and say this is what we call in the NBA scheduled loss. They got a tough loss in Texas. They've been traveling, tough loss against Arizona.
Yes.
They're home. I think this was just kind of an off game for them. I think they'll be better. They might have been looking ahead as well. They got Arizona State coming up. BYU's not a slouch either. That Marquette. So I think they overlooked these guys. And I think Nebraska, had that Shireman snub energy. And that was a perfect storm for them. And so, I think just looking at their schedule, the travel, those emotional big-time games they played in, this is just this is one of them games where they just didn't have it, man. They were finally back home, and we got to factor in. That's another thing I was going to touch on earlier. All this traveling. Have we seen teams traveling like with North Carolina flying to Portland, Indiana, staying there for 3 days? I mean, Hey, welcome to the league, guys. Like that's how it works.
Hey, they're getting paid. They're getting paid NIL. They might as well get used to it, right?
Hey, and the thing that's different between the NBA and what college is we don't have to wait for study hall. We don't have to. We wake up and watch film.
Wait, you went to study hall, John?
There's study hall. There's
you went to class.
Yeah, went to class.
I heard at Carolina. I heard at Carolina you didn't have to go to class. That's what people told me.
Listen, man, maybe West Carolina, East Carolina, but not the Carolina. So but the travel too is something that I think matters this year. Like Gonzaga running around all over the country, like that matters. You know what I mean? So I think this is just a one-off game. They played, Columba. He's been scaring me. He's kind of been turning the ball over. He's
not
forcing
right.
it. Another issue of an NBA guy could have left. Fringe NBA's got an NBA game. He's on the radar.
Exactly.
Are the NIL guys this year, right? So I think that's a factor. Man, he's pressing, man. He's got to just kind of let the game come to him and go from there.
Now wait a minute. Who's going to win the Big East?
I guess you'd say UConn today.
Yeah, UConn is rolling.
I guess you'd say UConn. I like UConn now. Watching them in Portland. Here's what I like about them. We knew what we were going to get with Sanogo. And like Jordan Hawkins is still trying to figure it out, right? How to be a guy, a consistent guy. I love their other Donovan Clingan. He is a beast, an absolute beast that showed that if Sanogo gets in foul trouble, they're good. They're good. Caravan, awesome piece. They just got a lot of good players that fit. They're not going to overwhelm you with pros. But again, they got a potential Big East Player of the Year, and Hawkins is a potential first-round pick. So they got enough, and they got guys that are buying in. And I do think the other Hurley, Danny, has calmed down a little bit. Like in Portland, I've never seen him that calm, ever.
You know why? Because he knows he's got a team that's good enough that if he lets them play, they're going to win.
Yeah.
And that's it. This fits Hurley, this team, meaning he doesn't have to rely on 2 or 3 guys to win him the game. And that makes you really dangerous when one of those guys is an All-American candidate in Adama Sanogo, and another one of those guys is a guy who's going to hear his name called in Brooklyn next June, in Jordan Hawkins. Like you said, Jeff, I think there's something to be said about Alex Caravan and Donovan Clingan. If you talk with those guys or if you watch them play, do they look like freshmen at all?
No, I actually talked to both of them in the preseason and talked to Clingan again in Portland, and I was just blown away. And Clingan was a guy who had like a rep of being lazy and being out of shape and a little heavy. And he got in great shape before the start of the season, and he looks anything but lazy. I know he played at like, Bristol, whatever, high school in Connecticut, so he could be lazy and still dominate. But man, he is every bit of 7 feet, probably 260, 250, whatever he is now. But man, he was awesome in Portland when they needed him.
All right, we got one more game to talk about here, and then we're going to do the toasts.
Yeah.
Today marked the 100th game of Mike Anderson's tenure with St. John's. This was a critical game for a previously unbeaten St. John's team that went to Ames and lost to Iowa State. Now, granted, in Hilton Coliseum, the Cyclones have now won their last 16 non-conference games. 71-60. John Henson, I'm going to start with you before I pitch the question to Dr. Goodman. You seem to be high on Iowa State. Why is that?
Yeah, I had them beating the Tar Heels, and so I always was high on them before tonight. But they're a fun team to watch. Playing professionally, they move the ball, they share, they get after you defensively, they shoot the ball. They've got some good size down there. I mean, I think they're kind of going to be a surprise team, and they'll be there at the end. Not, end of the season. Not I'm saying they're going to be a Sweet 16 team, but they're going to be competitive. It's going to be hard to beat them guys this year. And I literally loved how they played. I mean, there was one possession where they passed the big touch pass back, corner, touch pass back to the 3, tray ball. Like that, you're not going to lose too many games playing like that. I don't care who it is, So it was fun to watch them jump on the St. John's. They jumped on them early, got up big, and just kind of cruised through the rest of the game, wire to wire.
Jeff, I will ask you this question. 100 games into Mike Anderson's tenure in Queens. What grade would you assess?
C-, probably somewhere around there. I mean, you know what I thought of the hire when they hired him. I thought it was a terrible hire. Didn't make sense. Just it wasn't logical to me that you're going to hire a guy that couldn't name 3 out of the 5 boroughs to coach St. John's at that point. And it's true. He couldn't. And we're talking about year 4 at this point. He plays such a weak non-conference schedule that they only have a bullet or two. You know, you look at who they played so far. Okay, I'm going to give you some numbers. Merrimack, 345 in Ken Palm. Lafayette, 290. Central Connecticut State, 341. Niagara, 245. LIU, Brooklyn, 350. The 3 teams they played are probably all high majors, are all low, like not NCAA tournament high majors. Nebraska, Temple, and Syracuse, they're all in the 80 to 100 range. So they got this one game against Iowa State, which everybody didn't think Iowa State was going to be any good, by the way. They're fortunate that they are. So even a loss isn't going to hurt them here. But basically, they're going to go through their entire non-conference schedule without playing anybody worth, an NCAA tournament bid, except for maybe Iowa State, and they don't beat them. I think you put yourself in such a hole that way that you have to finish, to me, in the top this year, probably 4 in the Big East, which they could do. It's not unthinkable that they could do it. I just, again, Chris Mullen got to a first 4. Chris Mullen, and he was run out of town. He was horrible at St. John's. We know that. He was terrible. Elite player, just like Patrick Ewing, terrible coach. Just because you're a great player does not mean you're going to be a very good coach. And Fanta knows what I think of the former NBA players who have $100 million in the bank. Usually they don't know how to grind it well enough in college to win at the highest level, to rebuild a program.
Do you want a stat here? Wait, you want a stat, guys?
Yeah.
I'm not one for throwing out numbers that are just meaningless and don't have feel. This I think has a level of feel. Listen closely, folks.
Okay.
In the month of November, since 2019, the St. John's Red Storm are 22-3. In December through March, the program is now 36-39 since 2019.
The mediocre, and they don't play anybody in November. So those wins are like empty wins. They don't count for anything. They don't help you. Go out. You've got a team right now. You have David Jones. You got him from DePaul. You got Curbelo. Go out, and you're still scheduling at that point. I don't want to hear that your schedule's done by the point that the port. You're scheduling still when you're working the portal. So you could have added a game or 2 against good teams, and you didn't. And now, you know what? It probably is going to bite you in the ass unless you finish in the top 3 or 4.
Where do they rank as a program overall? Like, you were talking about Georgetown last week. Like, where does and Henson, I'd be curious to hear from you, St. John's, New York City, like, where do they rank in 2022?
They have, like, as far as the program as what I would think as a whole, or just their team.
Your perception. No, my perception of their program is it's like a top 50-ish program in the country.
Yeah, it's a top 50s program, but with St. John's, I think when they were at their best, and I'm not 100% sure, they had New York kids and Philly kids and kids that were from that cloth that, because I'll be honest, I'm from Tampa, Florida. I'm not going to live in Queens. I'm just not feeling that, right? Like, just not doing that. So you got to get guys that are around the area and that want to play for, St. John's is a big, in the basketball world, going to St. John's is no slouch. That's a historical school. People know who you are. And New York City is one of them cities where I treat it as like Miami. If you're a college kid and you're rolling and you're playing well, you will be known there, and it's going to be a fun time. So I think they have the piece. They're top 50, but they got to go. The recruiting has to be specific, regional, certain type of player, as we talked about, that's going to come in and kind of treat that school as their city, as their pride. And so it's tough because New York basketball isn't where it used to be,
Interesting stuff. All right, it's time for 3 toasts. I see Henson with a glass of red.
Yeah, I got a little glass of red, man.
Lead us off. Lead us off.
I'm going Justin Mutz, 27, 11, and 4. At one point in the second half, he had scored more than the whole entire Carolina team. He hit a three today. He was driving, right hook, spin, left. I mean, they could do nothing with him. And he kind of buoyed them as Carolina made their run and led them to the win. And I love the way he played today. He looked good. Toast to Justin Mutz, man.
There you go. Justin Mutz.
Toast to Justin Mutz. All right, Jeffrey, you're up second.
I mean, you got to go Sam Grizzell. Got to do it, right? I mean, in-state, he beats Creighton. He's from the Lincoln area, comes back home, 18, 12, and 7. And he beats Creighton. And the interesting part is, think about it. They got him at Nebraska. Nebraska missed out on who? Baylor Shireman, who ended up going to Creighton instead. And Nebraska wins this one in one of, I think we'll look back early, in a month, 2 months, 3 months, and say this was one of the most shocking, the biggest upsets. Because you just don't, like, it'd be one thing if Creighton lost at Nebraska. Creighton's not losing too many of these games at home, period, especially to a bottom feeder like Nebraska. And that's a good win, by the way. For the Big Ten, that's a huge win. And for the Big East, that is, I may start calling them the Big Least, John, because the league right now, Villanova, struggling.
Yeah.
Right now, Creighton, struggling. The bottom of the league is still, I mean, Georgetown's atrocious. We know that. The league is not what it has been the last few years right now.
Right.
No. I mean, go ahead.
No, the Big East is struggling.
Yeah.
The UConn's got to put them on the back, put
right.
the league on the back, which they seem to be ready to do. But it's not a lot of parity in that conference, and things have got to kind of pick up a little bit because the Big East that I knew was the toughest conference in the land, right?
Yes.
Like back in those days, man.
Hey.
Even think about USF. Like, man, I remember when I was in high school, they were good with Dominique Jones and those guys. And I remember like walking on the street and seeing like them riding down the street with the new Challenger. And I'm like, wow, like that was the Big East. Like USF was rolling. Like so,
Stan
you
Heath.
have to cut that off and see what it is now. And it's a good conference, but it's not what we want it to be. I don't think it ever will be again.
That old league stands in a class of its own. This reconfigured one has had success. This particular year has gotten off to a start that's been inconsistent. You have 4 new head coaches. I think they all have swallowed early lumps. I think for the Big East, if Marquette had not beaten Baylor this past week, it would have been really that was a huge win for Marquette. I now think differently of them. I think here's the way you look at it very quickly. UConn, Creighton, Xavier.
Yep.
Then from there, can you get to 5? And in an 11-team league, 5, they've averaged about 5.5 to 6, which that's pretty much what you're going to do.
Yep.
So the question's going to be, here's the question with this league. Marquette, can they keep this up? I thought Marquette-Wisconsin yesterday was one of the best games of the season to date. Yeah. And then what happens between Providence, who's not gotten off to a good start to the year, St. John's, Mike Anderson says the tournament's got to happen, but like you said, they haven't really scheduled like it. We'll see. And then, I won't write off Thad Matta quite yet because I think Manny Bates is pretty talented, but I don't see it. I don't see it. So 4 or 5. But my 3. Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
I would agree. I think Marquette, and then you maybe get a 5th. But again, like if you're St. John's and you finish 5th in the league, and the committee looks at your non-conference, you're not getting in probably.
Probably not, unless you've got wins over Creighton/UConn.
Right. You got to beat UConn. It's kind of like Carolina right now when we're talking, they got Ohio State and Michigan. Well, you got to split those two. Because if you go 0 for 2, then everything is riding on beating Virginia and Duke. Everything. Like you have to split against both. Luckily, you're playing both. You should get 4 shots
Hey,
out.
Henson, who's going to win, Carolina or Duke?
The game. I mean, listen. I'll bet the house on Carolina at that game. I don't care what the statistics, analytics say, but I think even for Michigan and North Carolina, I think this is a must. I mean, I like Michigan that are trending up, North Carolina's trending down. I think that is a battle. That is going to be a battle. Big game. Yeah, like season altering game because Carolina loses.
Do you know what
they go from there? And Michigan wins. Okay, now we're talking, right? So it's going to be interesting.
You know what's funny? And then we're getting out of here for a reason of my toast. Like, I want to quickly, Carolina actually matches up pretty well with Duke.
They match up well against most teams. They just don't play well against most teams right now.
So they're going to get up against Duke.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
They're going to get up. I mean,
all right, I'm going to toast Trevor Valise. It's his birthday.
That's right. Good one.
Trevor, happy
21st?
birthday.
21st birthday, Trevor? 25th birthday. There it is.
Happy birthday to Trevor. Trevor worked 2 shows today, our Field of 12 college football playoff show. And how about it, guys? The playoff is set. Georgia, Ohio State in the 1-4 game, Michigan, TCU. Please, folks, check out at the Field of 12. We've got analysis. We've got the college football playoff is set. We got a ton of great programming there. And we're back with you tomorrow night, 11 Eastern time.
We also are with you. The 3 of us are with you Tuesday night.
Yes.
From Jimmy V in New York City with Bobby Doster. I don't know. I like this little 3. We got some chemistry here. Are we sure we want to add Doster?
Yes. For no other reason than there's going to be a couple moments during the show where you two start arguing, and Henson, you and I can laugh. It'll be good. I'm telling you, Henson.
I'm excited to see Texas live, man. That's going to be fun.
I'm excited to see you live, Henson. I haven't seen you in forever in person.
Man, I was in MSG last Wednesday watching Knicks Bucks, man. So, those are my stomping grounds, man. So, I'm excited to see you guys.
Let me tell you something. That does it for us here. Jimmy V Classic. We are there, Field of 68 Tuesday night. And you just said it, John. Illinois, Texas could be a ton of fun at the Garden. That gets followed by Iowa and Duke. And folks, if you haven't seen Chris Murray in action yet this year, get ready. That's as good. That's a really, really good doubleheader on Tuesday night in New York City. What's that?
Go Hawkeyes, baby.
Oh, there it is.
For Jeff and John, Fanta signing off. Happy birthday, Trevor. We'll see you tomorrow night on Field of 68.